Welcome to the Covent Garden Inner Space Talk. Our talk today is the power of living in the now. Do you find yourself thinking about yesterday's and tomorrow's, fretting about earlier conversations or how to manage the next tasks ahead of you? Getting caught up in everything but the now. Well, it happens more than I think we would like to admit. So what is this promise of living in the power of the now? Is there a promise? And I think the best way of saying it is that it's an invitation to experience greater peace and joy, better focus and interaction. So what stops us living in the now if that's all available to us? So we've asked our speaker to share his insights on how to, one, manage past regrets, daily distractions, and future worries. And then two, be more present, mindful, attentive, so that we do get to live in the now. Our speaker, David Howard, is joining us from Washington, D.C. He's worked for the Deputy Mayor of Washington and served in 4 administrations. David is going to be sharing with us for around 40 minutes. And after that, he's going to do a short guided meditation, just 3 minutes. And the idea is that you then, everything you've heard or that's touched you, you allow that to settle into your awareness. So it's something that you'll be able to take into your activities or your day from tomorrow. After that, David will take your questions. So please do send in your questions via the question and answer link or via the webinar chat. And I'll take those questions and put them to David on your behalf. David, thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Artie. And please do send your questions in because I love answering questions. In fact, I sort of wish that this could be more of a conversation, but the format does not allow that today. So thank you. And thanks for that introduction, Artie. You know, I think that living in the now is sort of a hot topic now. There's so much discussion about living in the now and presence. You know, there's the wonderful book written by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. Peter Senge and other authors have written a great book called Presence. But what do we really mean when we say living in the now? It's sort of an odd phrase, isn't it? Because, how could we live anywhere but now? You know, this is where everything happens in the now. So what do we really mean when we say living in the now? Well, it's about where our thoughts, our attention, our awareness is. And our thoughts, our attention, our awareness isn't always in the present moment, is it? It can often be in the future or in the past. And sometimes in a good way, but not always. You know, sometimes we have to think about the future. There's great power in thinking about the future. We can use the future as a tool, thinking about the future as a tool to plan and to inform our decisions about what we do at this present moment. And it has great value. But sometimes our thoughts about the future can often be in the form of worry or anxiety about uncertainty. And how do we deal with that? And so we want to really explore that a little bit today. And then the past. The past is our teacher, isn't it? Certainly, everything we know, everything we feel, everything we think is a result of our past experience. So the past is so important to us, and it can teach us so much. But the past can also disconnect us from our happiness. It can lead us to anxiety as well. If we have regrets or resentments that come up, they can disconnect us from our happiness. And when we disconnect from our happiness, we're also disconnecting from our real power. So we want to explore today a little bit some tools that we can use in our lives to just keep our awareness more in the present moment and less influenced by those negative anxieties of the future and regrets or resentments from the past. And I think it starts, the foundation of all of that starts with an understanding of our truth, the truth of ourselves. It truly begins in that place. You know, we have many truths. We have the truth of our physical, we have our physical truth. You know, the body we're in, where we are in this world, maybe our relationships and our family, they're part of our physical truth. And there also is the truth of our experience. You know, all the impressions that come from the journey that we've been on. That's part of our truth as well. But there is another truth, and it's perhaps a universal truth that is part of all of us. The truth of who we are at an essence. And that truth is as a benevolent being, a being that's connected to an unlimited source of love. And for me, being present is about staying in the awareness of that truth specifically and keeping that at the foundation of our thoughts and our actions. And when we do that, we're happy and we're powerful. You know, if I was to ask people, ask all of you, what your deepest desire is, I bet a lot of you would say happiness or peace. Some you might give a materialistic answer or a situational answer that my deepest desire is to have a great relationship or a rewarding career, or maybe to make a lot of money. But if you distill that down, for most of us, it really comes down to that peace and happiness. But I think we can go deeper than that. And there is something, a desire that we all have that's even deeper than the experience of peace and happiness. And that's the desire to experience ourselves as a being of love. And what does that mean, really? You know, when we use that word love, we use that word love to mean so many things. It's difficult sometimes to know what we mean when we say that word love. And so to give you an example, for me, love is about a way of being. Love is respect. Love is regard. Love is appreciation. Love is understanding and kindness. Love is patience, cooperation. And love is acceptance as well. And so for me, being present is about keeping those qualities at the foundation of my thinking. And although other thoughts and feelings may come into my awareness with observation and intention and attention, I can observe when my awareness is in the foundation of love, of that benevolence. And when other things are pulling it away from that awareness. And being present means that I pay attention. And first of all, to observe what's at the foundation of my thinking, to have the awareness, the presence to keep my attention on the foundation of my thinking. Will I always be able to keep my awareness in that foundation of love? Maybe not, but at the very least, I can pay attention to that. And the more I pay attention to that, the more I am able to move in that direction and to fulfill that intention to think with love. We are happiest when we're doing that. Think about something, think about a time that someone expressed appreciation to you. And think about how you felt. It was a warm feeling. And now think about something that you appreciate. Something we often don't spend enough time doing. And observe how you feel in that place of appreciation. And the feeling is very similar to being appreciated and appreciated. They're very similar. And the amazing thing is we always have a choice to think with love, to use respect, regard, appreciation, understanding, acceptance. It is our truth. It is always available for us to use. And when we do that, we're serving ourselves. We're serving our own happiness. And for me, the journey of living in the now, of being present, is about making that choice. To keep those qualities, to keep the intention to think with love, to think with benevolence. But you need power to do that. It's not easy. You know, we've all been on an amazing journey in our lifetime, perhaps many lifetimes, who knows? And the experience of that lifetime makes impressions on us. And those impressions become the foundations of our thoughts and our feelings. And so it's not like those thoughts and feelings shouldn't be there. They are there. They've come from our experience. And so one of the most powerful tools that we can use in the transformation of our thinking and to stay in the present moment is to accept all the thoughts and feelings in our experience, to know that they all have a right to be there. They've come from my journey. But having done that, having accepted that they're there, we can ask ourselves, Are those thoughts serving me? Are those feelings serving me? And if they're disconnecting me from that love, from my truth as a being of love, then they're not serving. Because I am happiest and most powerful when I'm connected to that truth. So, having accepted that that feeling is there, I can make a choice about what to do with it. But in order to make that choice, I need space. Have you ever felt angry or frustrated about something? And you said, okay, let me take a deep breath. Let me take a moment. And in that moment, in that space of a few seconds, pause, you found a little more power not to go down that road of anger and frustration. And we can nurture that same power by cultivating the awareness of the stillness within us. Within each of us, there is a place of stillness. It's not a stillness we need to create. It's a stillness that is always there. It's a peace that's always there within us. But are we aware of that stillness? And there are tools that we can use to bring that stillness more to the forefront of our awareness. Meditation is one of those tools. And later on, we'll do a little experiment with connecting with that awareness of that still place within me. And there's real value in that stillness. The more we can keep the awareness of that stillness within us at the forefront of our mind, the more we have room to make a choice about the thoughts that we nurture and feed, or the thoughts that we choose to transform. And if the thoughts are not serving us, if they're not connecting us with the loving truth of ourselves, if we're not using respect, regard, appreciation, understanding, compassion, acceptance, patience, cooperation in our thinking, we're not serving ourselves. And what are the kind of things that disconnect us from that? And one of the big things is looking at the weaknesses of others. We have a whole sport nowadays of looking at each other's weaknesses. We have social media, which is used so often in that way, just to critique each other. And we're doing ourselves a disservice when we do that. Because if we're looking at someone else's faults, mistakes, shortcomings, then we're disconnecting ourselves from that love. How do you feel looking at someone's weaknesses? The whole political thing, arena in the U.S. right now, and I work in the political arena, is so much tied into that, looking at the weaknesses of others. But we're doing ourselves a disservice when we do. And so if I catch myself looking at someone else's weaknesses, I will observe that. I'll observe that my mind went there. Not regretting that my mind went, but I'll observe that my mind went and use that stillness as space to transform that thought. And the best way to transform a thought is with a new thought. And one of the tools that I will often use for myself is appreciation. So if I find myself looking at someone's weakness, I'll ask myself, what do I appreciate about them? And sometimes it can be hard to find something to appreciate. But even the things that challenge us are there to be appreciated because they're there to teach us. And I'll often use that perspective to change my thinking. So being present, living in the now, is about paying attention to my thoughts, my feelings, accepting the thoughts and feelings that are there, and making a choice to nurture thoughts and feelings that are based in my connection to an unlimited source of love. And I'm doing that for myself, most of all. Sure, others in the world others around me may feel the benefit of that, but I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for myself. Because when I'm thinking with love, I am powerful and I'm happy. And sharing that, let's talk about regrets and resentments. We all have experiences in our lives that we may regret. We may have resentments that we hold on to. And we can learn from those experiences, and that's a wonderful opportunity for us. But how do we move beyond those feelings? Especially when they rob us of our happiness and keep us from bringing our best to this present moment. And I think it takes practice. At least in my experience, it does. I can think of times in my life when I used to get so angry and so frustrated with situations. One of my first jobs working for the mayor of DC was as his director of scheduling. And I was responsible for doing his whole calendar every day. And, the calendar would change, of course. People would, you would have it all set and all organized, and then something would come up and you'd have to call and cancel this and rearrange that. But that's part of the job. But one day in particular, I remember, I think the calendar had changed like 4, maybe 5 times. And the poor soul who asked me to change it the 6th time, I just lost it. I picked up my desk with a computer on it and flipped over the whole desk in frustration. This was probably maybe 22 years ago. And I don't do that anymore. Sometimes I do get frustrated or angry, but never like that. And I think one of the reasons why is I've been more intentional about what's at the foundation of my thoughts. And I'm intentional about practicing that in the moment. And, and what is that? Probably some of you ride a bicycle, some of you play an instrument. And did you just pick up the instrument and start playing, or did you just jump on the bicycle and start riding down the street? No, you had to practice to learn to do that. And thinking with love takes practice. And often when we're practicing something new, we don't, if you're learning an instrument, you don't start with yeah, the Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. You start with something, probably Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or something easy like that. And thinking with love, we can claim the opportunity to practice, especially on the little things. There are so many opportunities that come to us throughout the day where we can choose thoughts that are based in respect and regard, and appreciation, understanding, and acceptance, and patience, and cooperation, and serve ourselves with doing that. Let's say you're at the checkout counter at, oh, in the UK, it would be Waitrose. Let's see. You don't know the person behind the checkout counter. Are you interacting with them with patience and cooperation and respect? You don't know them, so it's easy to make a choice to do that. You don't have any history with them. So don't miss that opportunity to practice that, not for them, but for yourself. I don't know what the traffic is like in UK now, especially in London. I know here in Washington, it can be very challenging at times. But I've changed my perspective on that and recognized that driving in DC is an incredible opportunity to build my strength of thinking. Someone cuts me off in traffic, I can honk my horn or shake my fist or something else at them, or I can let them go with love. They're probably going to go anyhow. So why don't I use this for myself and let them go and send them good wishes and pure feelings as they go? Now, certainly, if I need to tap the horn to protect myself and protect them, of course I can do that, but not with contempt, but with love and compassion. And again, I'm doing this for myself, not for them, although they get the benefit of it. And then what about those friends, those families, friends, family members, coworkers who know just how to push your button? What about them? Maybe I don't have the strength at this moment to respond in that situation with the loving part of me. But at the very least, I can observe it. I can pay attention to it. That's part of what being present, being living in the now is, paying attention to my thinking. And then with that attention, maybe I have a little more power the next time that situation comes to respond with the best part of me, for me, for me. So we mentioned attention, intention, attention, and intention. Being present is about paying attention to my thinking and keeping my intention to think with the truth of me as a being of love, and to experience that part of me in my life and feel the happiness of experiencing that part of me, especially when I'm challenged to do that, and being intentional about practicing that and building my strength to do that. Okay. So I had something else I wanted to talk to you about too. And You know, uh, thinking about the future can be very important. And, but there are some challenges with that that we should be aware of. Yeah, probably some of you are like me and you like to make to-do lists. I know I love to make to-do lists. I work for the deputy mayor for planning and economic development. So planning is very much a part of what we do. Planning is a powerful tool to help us understand and make decisions about what we do at this moment, because this is where everything happens right now. And for myself, I love to make to-do lists and plan, but I also know that I often will overdo that. And I'll also often use that planning as a deception that will take me away from the present moment into the future. And I'll make these to-do lists, and so many of the things that I plan to do, I never accomplish. And I think what happens there is I fail to connect that plan with the present. Let me give you an example. Artie and I were talking about gardening, and I love gardening, and it probably is something that comes from my childhood when I lived um, in the UK, in a little village to the northwest of London. And we have a place here in DC where we have 7 acres, and we acquired that maybe about 4 years ago. And one of my joys has been working on the garden there. But it also can be my frustration, because I'll have this grand vision, for what the garden will be, and I put all my attention on that. But where I fail is to connect that vision with the present. And I'll often have a vision of all these things I want to do, and probably unrealistic, because if I connected it to the present, I would realize what could be done in the present moment, and know that even in 25 years, I probably couldn't accomplish all those things. And I'll enjoy that part of that planning, but then there is that tyranny of that frustration that comes when that vision is not materializing. And that vision is only going to happen when it's connected to what I'm doing at this moment. And so when I'm working in the garden there, if my thoughts are with the frustration with the weeds, with a plant that doesn't survive, or with someone else who is sharing in the caring of the garden who has not done their part, then I'm not really doing what I can to materialize that vision. That vision will materialize when I bring the loving part of myself to each moment that I spend in that garden, and let go of those frustrations from unfulfilled expectations. To me, this is also about what it is to live in the present moment, to live in the now. And the example we gave too of anxiety that comes from resentment, comes from regrets. How can we move past those? Well, with that intention to our thinking with that intention and practice of thinking with love, to thinking with the loving part of myself, to experience myself as a loving being in the moment, in the now. I find that although those regrets and resentments may still be there, that their power over me and their influence over me is less and less and less. That, I can think of a time of some of the things that I've regretted in my life. I can think of a time when I lost my job. I can think of several times when I've lost my job. And the and of the sorrow that I carry with me from that loss. But now I can look on that with understanding and clarity and say, thank goodness I lost that job. Because if I hadn't lost that job, I might still be doing that job and not be doing what I do now, which I love so much more. So with practice and attention and intention to using my connection to an unlimited source of love as the foundation of my thoughts, I find that my perspective on the things that I've resented or regretted softens. And I have more power to meet each day. Okay. So I talked a little bit about stillness and how cultivating stillness in our awareness is a way that we can build our power to pay more attention to our thinking and to be more intentional about thinking from that truth of ourselves as a loving being. So how do we cultivate stillness in our awareness? As I said, stillness is not something we have to create. It's something that's there within us. How can we bring that stillness more to the forefront of our awareness? Well, meditation for me has been a very powerful tool to do that. And with regular meditation, we can be more aware of that still place within us and keep that awareness more at the forefront of our intellect. And with that, we have space to be intentional about our thinking and to pay attention to our thoughts. So, should we do a little meditation together? Yeah? Okay. Meditation is not something mysterious. It's something very straightforward, actually. It's simply turning your attention inward and focusing and observing. And if we're going to focus and observe, it's useful to have something to focus on. And our breath is something that's always available for us to use, especially when we're first learning to meditate. We can use our breath as a focal point in our meditation. And so I'd like to invite you all to take a nice deep breath together and let it out, breathing easily and naturally. And for the next few minutes, let me just observe the air filling my lungs and exiting through my mouth and nose. With each breath in, let me observe how the breath refreshes me. And each breath out, observe how a little bit of tension is released. Just watching my breath. And as I watch my breath, other thoughts may come. Maybe it's questions about, am I doing this right? Or will this help me? Or maybe my thoughts are going to something I have to do later today, or something that happened this morning. And all of that is fine. Just as I observe my breath, I can observe any other thoughts that come and accept that they're there, acknowledge that they've come from my experience. They have a right to be there. But having accepted them, let me bring my attention back to my breath. Just watching my breath. And it's in this process of focus and observation, acceptance, I'm returning to my breath, is where I may begin to get a glimpse of that stillness. That stillness that's always there, waiting for me to discover. I don't need to make myself still, but I can be aware of the stillness that is there. And in this still awareness, let me take my attention to the center of my forehead and visualize the tiny point. See that point of light in your mind's eye. Very small, shining out into the room around you. Feel the glow of that. Within that point is the essence of you. The essence of everything wonderful and beautiful. Within that point of light is a place of peace. Within that point of light is a connection to an unlimited source. Love that is always there for me to use in my thoughts, in my words, in my actions. Using love doesn't diminish it. The more I use love, the more it grows, the more available it is for me. And in the awareness of that love, I take my attention to the unlimited source of that love, that constant, eternal, unlimited source. And through that source, I see my connection to every other being. Or it's that thread of love that connects us all. It's the universal truth of each one of us, even though it may not be what's manifested at any moment. It is the truth of us. And as I bring my attention back to the room around me, let me keep the awareness of that truth at the forefront of my mind. Let me see each other in the awareness of that connection. See with that love. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you shared some questions that we can explore now.
Thank you very, very much, David. The meditation was calming, but your talk took us to that state of calm already. So it was like you took us to a deeper level and it was effortless. There's been so many thank yous and appreciations for the words that you have shared this evening with us already. So, but as you asked, there are a few questions.
Sure.
The first question is being in the now and fate of our destiny aligned with one another? So we just experience life as it comes along.
Wow, I love this question. You know, certainly we can be intentional about our lives. We can plan for our lives. We go to school so that we'll have the education we need to get the job that we want. In each moment, we have an opportunity to create our destiny. But I think most importantly, we create our destiny, but by the qualities that we bring into each moment, not some grand plan. Although that's important too, but let's not forget what we bring to each moment. I have a little story that I'll tell from my own experience. You know, I haven't always worked in the political arena. I've done that for about 25 years. But I had another career before that. I was a sommelier, and I did that for about 25 years, and working in some of the best restaurants in the country. And I was president of the Washington Sommelier Society. And I intended to do that, for the rest of my career. And I was at a street fair, street celebration one day, and there was a table there that one of the candidates for mayor had set up. And they had a form that, a list where you could sign. And I thought they were was a petition to put their name, so they could put their name on the ballot. But they said, no, that's a volunteer form. And I thought about it for a minute and thought, why not? I can volunteer. My job is in the evening, so I have the days free. Why not? And so I put down my name, and they didn't call me. Finally, they did call me, and I immediately found out that I didn't even know. I was so naive. I didn't even know what ward I lived in the city. I thought I lived in Ward 1. I actually lived in Ward 2. And so, but the Ward 2 volunteers hadn't organized. So I helped the Ward 1 volunteers until the Ward 2 volunteers got organized. And by the time they did, I was an old hand at this. I had done it for 2 weeks. And I ultimately ended up coordinating all of the volunteers for Ward 2 and then for the whole campaign for the city. And the mayor won and invited me to come to work for him. This is nothing that I ever intended or planned to do. And so, yeah, there is something about faith there. And one thing it told me is what's most important is what you bring to each moment. Yes, you can make plans and preparations, but what's even more important is what we're bringing to this second, to this presence. Yeah. I hope that answered your question.
It's very interesting. Life does tend to send you in another direction sometimes than you ever thought you would go.
Yeah.
But being open to it is, I guess, the ticket.
Yeah. And bringing the best part of you to that. And the best part of us is that part that's connected to that unlimited source of love. What other questions if we still have time?
We do. We have time and we have a few questions. How do you keep responding with love as the basis of your thoughts when someone doesn't seem to act towards you with love as the basis of their thoughts or actions?
It's a very, very good question, and one that I can certainly identify with. And it can be very challenging at times to do that. But what empowers me, what helps me in those situations is when I understand that responding with love, using the loving part of me, is actually serving me. And that what they're doing is about them. And so if I actually am attached to the expectation that they should respond in an equally loving way, that attachment actually is going to limit the love that I'm able to experience myself. And so I try to keep in my awareness that I'm doing this for myself, not for them. And to still have love and good wishes for them, and know that to have love and good wishes is serving me. And so they can be doing what they're doing. But let me pay attention to what's at the foundation of my thinking for me. And that's what helps me keep doing it. Sometimes it can be very challenging.
How do you go from being frustrated back to that space of having that love?
Yeah. And sometimes it can be a journey to get there. And I certainly still get frustrated, even after making meditation very much a part of my life for the last 25 years. Sometimes I do get frustrated. And I think one of the things that helps me is to use compassion for myself, to understand that this is all part of my journey, and there is something in the situation that is there to serve me. And I will often try to look for things that will take me to an experience of the loving part of me. And appreciation is a wonderful tool that I mentioned. How often do we think about the things we appreciate? And if something is frustrating me, let me find maybe something else that I can appreciate at that time, just to experience that appreciation, to experience the loving feeling of that appreciation. And that can help me to lift beyond that. Also, forgiveness for myself and for others is a very empowering tool to move beyond the hurt and frustration that I might experience in a situation or a relationship. I hope that answered the question. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. The next question that's come through is they're saying thank you very much for the incredibly useful talk. I'm unhappy in my current job and have been looking for other jobs in the last 18 months, but have had 6 rejections. I'm beginning to lose my confidence and starting to despair. What am I doing wrong?
Wow, this is a hard one. So, I think that one thing that helps me, especially when I'm faced with challenges that will repeat themselves, is to trust that this journey ultimately is there to serve me. The challenges are there to serve. I may not be able to recognize how they're serving me at this moment. Perhaps they're building my strength. Perhaps we need those rejections in our experience so that we will have the strength to take some great risk that I need to take that will fulfill me even more. Who knows? But if we can cultivate a perspective of acceptance of our journey, know that our journey ultimately is there to serve us. And we can find some empowerment from that. I'm not saying it's easy. And I would also say that what we talked about today is about becoming more of a master of our thinking. And like any kind of mastery, it comes from practice and developing skills and tools. And one of those most powerful tools is regular meditation. Meditation is not something we do when we feel frustrated or tense. We go and meditate to relieve the anxiety. Yes, it can help relieve the anxiety in that case, but it's much more powerful as a tool to do regularly so that we build the foundation of that stillness, which empowers us to meet challenging situations more successfully on our journey. And those challenges may be multiple rejections. But the more we can cultivate that stillness within ourselves, the more that we'll have power to be a master of our thinking in those situations so that we can have our full power and strength to keep moving forward.
This is going to be the final question. We are overrunning. I hope that's okay, though.
It's okay with me.
Wonderful. How to deal with the father who doesn't care much about his children and is egoistic?
Yeah. Yeah. So let me put this in perspective then. So we're talking about living in the now today and about being present. And what certainly what the father does is going to influence and impact those people around. But we have a choice of how that impacts us, how we internalize that situation. And being present is about observing our feelings and our thoughts and making sure that we're choosing the thoughts that serve the soul, serve ourselves, by being thoughts that are connected with respect and regard and appreciation, acceptance, all the things we talked about. Okay. So, in doing that, there may be some influence on the others around you. Maybe not. But the only one that we really truly have power over is ourselves. We can influence other people to a greater or lesser extent. But ourselves is the only one that we really have true power over. And so we could obsess and focus about on what the Father is doing. But probably a more powerful thing to do for ourselves would be to use this as an opportunity to build the strength of our own awareness, of the stillness within us, and of the foundation of our thinking. And then perhaps others might be influenced by that, perhaps not. But at the very least, I am supporting my own power and my own happiness. And that's the most we can really ever do. Perhaps others will be influenced in it, maybe not. Yeah.
Thank you. It really is. No, we can't change anybody.
No.
We can't change anybody's priorities or hopes or
We can
lack
certainly,
of.
we can certainly influence them, but we influence them most powerfully when we're coming from the place of our real power, which is the loving self.
Mm, because as soon as someone feels like you have an expectation of them, there's a little bit of resistance that tends to emerge. Yeah, true.
And to be also be aware that each of us is on our own journey, and that we are a summation of that journey.
Mm,
And each playing our own part. And the Father in this case is playing his part. And understanding that allows me to have more acceptance of what's going on. And that empowers me to bring more positivity to the situation. Sorry to interrupt you there, Archie.
no, absolutely. Thank you. May I ask one last question?
Yes.
How to know when it's time to let go and stop trying to make something happen?
Well, I think that we all have, we all are trying to do things in our lives to make different things happen. If you take anything from this talk today, I would think that what I'd like you to realize is that yes, it's important to do that, but perhaps more important is what I bring to this moment in the foundation of my thinking and the way I interact with the world. And the we never can, there's never a case when we would say it's time to let go of my intention to to think from the truth of myself and to experience myself as a loving being. And I think that intention supersedes anything else. And I think if I stay focused on that, other things become much more clear. Other things begin to take care of themselves. And I don't need to worry so much about, okay, it's time to let go of this. I try to keep that in my focus. And with that, I'm open to what the journey presents.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.